Madam Speaker, our founders would be horrified to learn of the motion that we're debating here today. That today, in the House of Commons, we would be debating and voting on a motion affirming our rights and privileges is disgraceful. Parliament's absolute power to require the government to produce uncensored documents when requested is fundamental to our democracy. Would you ever imagine a motion demanding that the government provide oxygen to this chamber? Well, of course not. Yet documents, more specific, the information on them, is as critical to the functioning of this place as the air that we breathe. That the government would deny the right to these things speaks to an administration that values secrecy, control, manipulation, and ultimately a complete disregard for this House of Parliament. Madam Speaker, I was elected not only to be the voice of the people for Mississauga-Streetsville, but to be their eyes and ears as well. They expect me to hold the government to account, to demand explanations for politicians, and vote for or against those proposals. Without complete information, Madam Speaker, without clear and unbiased evidence, without a full cost analysis, how can I perform this honored calling to the best of my abilities? The answer is I cannot. And that is why Parliament was vested with privileges, Madam Speaker. Our founding articles, the British North America Act, now called the Constitution Act of 1867, established in Section 18 that privileges, duties, and powers of Parliament. These privileges are expressed further in the Parliament Act and in our standing orders. In a landmark ruling last year by Speaker Milliken on the Afghan detainees' documents, he upheld the supremacy of Parliament and the right to order documents. He affirmed the House's undisputed role as the grand inquest of the nation and its need for complete and accurate information in order to fulfill its duty of holding this government and any government to account. Over the last 5 years of this Conservative government, this House has been required to cite its privileges at a rate never seen before, Madam Speaker, never seen before in our modern history. Our esteemed law clerk, Mr. Robert Walsh, has never been so busy. Repeatedly, he is asked to attend committees to remind them of their rights and their privileges when confronted with attempts of obstruction from this government. The examples are numerous. Government ministers refusing requests to appear before committees, senior Conservative staff members evading bailiffs with summonses, documents not provided or seriously redacted, and the list goes on and on and on. When committee requests documents, the government drags its feet. They obstruct, and when they run out of options, they flat out refuse. There are books, in fact, books that document the amount and the degree of Conservative government's obstruction. In Mr. Lawrence Martin's Harperland, The Politics of Control, a runner-up, may I say, John C. Cohen Prize yesterday at the Writers' Trust Award, he provides a lengthy list of the Prime Minister's march of audacities. Since the 2006 election campaign, here are some of the highlights, with due acknowledgement, of course, to Mr. Martin. The elimination of the Access to Information database, the nixing of the Court Challenges program, the secret handbook on how to obstruct committees, hiding Justice Department studies on crime, hiding a firearms report to prevent the embarrassment of the gun registry, the Rights and Democracy fiasco, slashing the budget of the Parliamentary Budget Officer, withholding details of the stimulus funding, and we all know why that happened, firing the Nuclear Agency head, Linda Keane, halting Peter Tinsley's probe on Afghan detainees, ousting Paul Kennedy from the Commission on the Public Complaints against the RCMP, smearing a career diplomat, Mr. Richard Colvin, defying Parliament's right to documents, padlocking Parliament by proroguing not once, but, Mr. Speaker, the move on Statistics Canada, and, Mr. Speaker, the list goes on and on and on. Of today's Opposition Day motion also contains specific references to documents requested by the Standing Committee on Finance on November 17, 2010 and March 7, 2011. And these are extremely important requests, Mr. Speaker. The first deals with the government's decision to implement corporate tax cuts at the worst possible time during an economic recession. The Finance Committee asked for the projections of corporate tax profits before tax up to 2015. The second deals with the costs related to the government's over-the-top crime agenda that will send many, many more thousands of our young people down the drain of a broken prison system. In both cases, the government refused to provide the information, and they cited the excuse of cabinet confidence. Notwithstanding the fact that Parliament has the authority to order the production of any and all documents, Mr. Speaker, including those that are termed cabinet confidence, it is curious that the government would choose this. After all, what exactly is cabinet confidence? Well, it's difficult to find an explanation that can capture the complexities of the concept. But the Department of Justice, in its discussion paper, Strengthening the Access to the Information Act, states that cabinet confidences, in the broadest sense, are the political secrets of ministers, individually and collectively, the disclosure of which would make it very difficult for the government to speak in unison before Parliament and the public. So with this in mind, are the projections of corporate profits before taxes a political? Would revealing them make it difficult for the government to speak in unison before Parliament and the public? Consider that in 2005, the Liberal government released exactly what was being requested in its 2005 Economic and Fiscal Update. So did our democracy crumble to its knees after these projections were published on page 83? Of course not, Mr. Speaker. And why? Because these figures are not cabinet confidences. Likewise, the costs related to the government's 11 crime bills. Would revealing these figures breach a political secret? Would revealing them make it difficult? Would it make it difficult, Mr. Speaker, for the government to speak in unison before Parliament and the public? Last year, the Parliamentary Budget Officer tabled a report estimating one single Justice Bill, C-25, the Truth in Sentencing Act. He stated that this one bill would increase the cost of correctional services to governments by up to $8.6 billion per year by 2015 and 16. This is the exact kind of information that we're looking for to get from the government, Mr. Speaker. It shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be privy to only the executive branch of government. After all, it's the legislative branch who is being asked to provide approval of these measures. How can we do so if we don't know what it will cost? Some might say it's being like asked to sign a check while the amount is concealed. You would never do so. Why would members of the be expected to do so? Yet, this is exactly what our Parliament has been reduced to. Well, Mr. Speaker, I believe in this House, and I believe in democracy, and I believe in the fundamental right of Parliament as written by our founders, shaped by our predecessors, and now challenged by this Conservative government. And I will not stand down in the face of their challenges to the institutions and the power of Parliament that I hold near and dear. And I won't stop defending our privileges and our rights. Thank you, Mr.